Well, hello. Good morning for me. I don't know what time of day it is for you. Today we are going to be working on Psalm number 38, and that is another one of the Purification Psalms. I want to get all those up as soon as possible because they're so important. The Purification Psalms are ways that we can find. It's hard sometimes because let's talk really quickly about the Psalms and the craft. A lot of new people involved in the craft come to it through pop culture, through a lot of there's a lot of books written about the craft, and there's a lot of newness in the craft, which is all fine. I don't have any problem with anything that's helpful and positive. But I do want to make a couple points about the old craft. The old craft didn't have occult stores, didn't have occult suppliers. In fact, the older the craft was, the less you wanted to be associated publicly with it because you could be persecuted. Now, during the major persecutions, when again, most of the people that were persecuted had nothing to do with the craft. It was just a craze. It was just a way to. There was a lot going on. There was a lot of reasons why those persecutions happened. But one thing that did happen is the people that were following the old way, that were following the craft, knew how to survive. And the first thing that they did was they got involved in whatever the church was that was in power in their community, and they adapted. And so most of the real old craft that you're looking for is not going to come from ancient grimoires, most of which are fake or only partially real, or from the literature in the that comes out in droves, that's written by modern craft thinkers. That are a lot of them are trying to juxtapose ceremonial magic over Gardnerian Wicca, over whatever, and it's all good. I mean, some of it's actually quite lovely, and I think you can do well with it. My point is not to demean anything, because it all is wonderful, but what we're doing with the Psalms is we're actually hearkening back to an older craft. The Psalms have been used by witches for a lot longer than those ancient grimoires, and definitely a lot longer than a lot of these new publications, and people trying to hearken back to a day that maybe never really existed. So remember that there were a lot of magical traditions, not just European witches. There were a lot of magical traditions, and many of them came out of the Hebraic faith, and the Psalms were definitely written, as was a lot of the Bible, by learned, wise individuals that were capable of writing on several levels, and one of those levels was a magical level. And those in the craft who were basically hiding in plain sight in the churches took to the Psalms. And when I'm saying the craft, I'm talking about all kinds of different magical traditions, because nobody was exempt from being persecuted. Took to the Psalms because it was obvious what they were. They were the spell book of God. They were the spell book. And so when you look at anything biblical, especially of the Psalms, from a magical perspective, you understand that they are all allegorical if they are to be used magically. So many of these Psalms will refer to other stories in the Bible, and so it can be helpful to read those stories that they're referring to so that you understand the context mythologically. But you mustn't get drawn into this idea of a particular theology if you're going to use it magically, because it needs to be taken personally. It needs to be personalized to your situation, and that's what's magical about it. And of course, the church would consider that very heretical, and probably still to this day do. but that's the way it is. And in a lot of ways, and again, I'm not trying to puff us up, but a lot of ways, the witches know more about their religion than they do. Because they're able to see it on other levels. Not only that, but now that witches don't need to hide in the churches, it's interesting to see that the churches are having a hard time keeping their congregations afloat. So I think a lot of the magic in those churches came from us as well, but that's just conjecture. There's no proof of that. I'm going to start us out today with a tarot reading. And tarot cards are another one of those things that we were able to hide in plain sight because it was just a game. It was just a game. They weren't considered scary back in the old days. It was just a card game. Now all cards, from the certain church's point of view, were the devil's picture book, and that was not just tarot. That was any kind of cards, because a lot of times they led to gambling or somehow led you to Satan, I guess. But those in the know were very clear that you can pray with a deck of cards. And so divination is only one facet of using cards, and cartomancy is to foretell the future and to be a fortune teller. And I'm not demeaning that, but when we do it, ours is more of a communication with infinite intelligence. It's a type of prayer. So we're asking infinite intelligence to reveal to us that which we need to know about the magic that we're about to perform with this psalm of purification, Psalm number 38. So what would we be able to know from infinite intelligence? I always do 2 very clean cuts into 3 piles, and then I just take the top 3 cards. All right, so 2s. So it's telling us that we are coming out of a period of emotional balance. Actually, we're coming out of a period of emotional beauty. Now, this is ruled. The cups are ruled by water, and the 6s are basically, for the most part, ruled by the sun. So when you have the sun in a water sign, that can be you can be ruled by your emotions. That's the only problem with this. Now, where we are now, it's telling us that with this psalm and choosing this psalm, we are searching, we are attempting to find a balance within our enterprise, within our will body, the fire body. Now, 2s also can represent Uranus, so they can be sudden changes, but they also represent relationships and seeing ourselves as part of a whole. It's not just being self-centered, it's recognizing that there's us and a presence, a divine presence. Now, the 2 in the 2 of Swords that we're coming out to, where it's pointing us to, is again the swords are the intellect side of the mind. The wands are the fire body, and then the cups are the water body. If you remember the witch's primer, which will be online again soon. I know I took everything down, but oh well. So the 2 of the intellect, it's teaching us that we need to keep our mind focused on where the intersection is. We need to keep our mind stayed on God, because it's very easy for us to get confused by the duality, confused by the illusion versus the truth. And so where we need to be focused is on the unity, not on the duality. So again, don't focus on the appearances, focus on what's behind the appearances, which is the thought. And then ultimately the thought of God is what will, in the Purification Psalm, will purify that sense of duality. So I'm going to just open up, I'm going to show you how we do this. I'm going to open up the 2 of Swords. We'll go from the future to the past. We're going to open up the 2 of Swords and see if it says something specific about how we are to use this this concept of the 2 of Swords, meaning keeping our minds focused, keeping our minds stayed on unity and not being deluded by the appearance of duality. Ha! That's a lot to think about first thing in the morning. So I do 3. Oh, and when we do so, it's saying when we are capable of doing that, then this Knight of Swords has victory over the appearances, and so then we have this 3 of Cups and this 10 of Cups, meaning emotional fulfillment and emotional responsibility and maturity, which is a cause for celebration. In fact, I don't want to make this too long of a video, so I'm going to stop there. But this is a very good way of thinking that as we go forward with the Psalm of Purification, one of our main objectives is to see beyond appearances, see beyond duality, and be one in our, let our mind be single. This is kind of a small circle, but I forgot to get a form, so we're going to just do, let's just do maybe 1 or 3 words in here. All viewers, I have to do it on 2 lines. All viewers, and we have unity. Oh, I was going to do peace. Let's do peace. And the other thing that comes out of that is freedom. We've done freedom a lot this last few times. Then we close that up to trap that in. Today's the day of Mercury. That's why I'm using this yellow piece of card stock here. And I'm going to put Raphael's Mercury symbol in the 4 quarters. That is the healer of God, the healing of God. So we're healing our minds from all sense of separation from our source, from all sense of duality, and we are going to be purified of all of that in a way that brings us great joy. Now, a lot of times when we transgress with ourselves or with each other, we have a sense of guilt. We don't know what to do with that guilt, so we suppress it because we don't know what to do. We know we don't want to feel guilt, so we just kind of dissociate and kind of get our minds on something else, not realizing that in doing that we're basically planting a seed, and then all of those guilt thoughts bring results. Oh, I didn't even perfume anything. I'm sorry. Let's just go back and do that. Sorry, Talisman. We're gonna put some Van on you. Yes, we are. And we're gonna put some Lily of the Valley on you because it's Mercury Day. Yes, we are. Did I put 2? No, I like to do 2 of the Van. It's no big deal. It's not like God's counting and saying, oh, well, he didn't do 3, so I'm not giving it to you. It's just a ritual gesture. And usually we do this at the beginning, but it's okay. I like to clear the space with some eau de cologne. This one's great. This one's called, it's from a Spanish perfumer called Alvarez Gomez, and it's Agua de Colonia Concentrada, and it's a wonderful eau de cologne. It's kind of a little bit like 4711, only it's a little bit sweeter. It's higher quality, and it's not expensive. I mean, it's like $25 or something for a big bottle. So, I mean, it's more than Florida water, but it is definitely a lovely way to clean the space. Remember, when you're cleaning the space with colognes, use an eau de cologne type of fragrance, not just an eau de cologne. Well, I'm going to do a video on this. Anyway, so in these purification psalms, we're bringing that guilt up just for a moment in time, not to wallow in it, but to recognize that it's there and to release it and to think a new thought. All right, let's read Psalm 38 through once as an incantation. Psalm 38, a psalm of David to bring remembrance. O Lord, rebuke me not in thy wrath, neither chasten me in thy hot displeasure. For thine arrows stick fast in me, and thy hand presseth me sore. There is no soundness in my flesh because of thine anger, neither is there any rest in my bones because of my sin. For mine iniquities are gone over mine head as an heavy burden, they are too heavy for me. My wounds stink and are corrupt because of my foolishness. I am troubled, I'm bowed down greatly, I go mourning all the day long. For my loins are filled with a loathsome disease, and there is no soundness in my flesh. I am feeble and sore broken. I have roared by reason of the disquietness of my heart. Lord, all my desire is before thee, and my groaning is not hid from thee. My heart panteth, my strength faileth me. As for the light of mine eyes, it also is gone from me. My lovers and my friends stand aloof from my sore, and my kinsmen stand far off. They also that seek after my life lay snares for me, and they that seek my hurt speak mischievous things, and imagine deceits all the day long. But I, as a deaf man, heard not, and I was a dumb man that opened not his mouth. I was as a man that heareth not, and in whose mouth are no reproofs. For in thee, O Lord, do I hope. Thou wilt hear, O Lord my God. I'm going to do that again. For in thee, O Lord, do I hope. Thou wilt hear, O Lord my God. For I said, hear me, lest otherwise they should rejoice over me. When my foot slippeth, they magnify themselves against me. For I am ready to halt, and my sorrow is continually before me. For I will declare mine iniquity, I will be sorry for my sin. But mine enemies are lively, and they are strong, and they that hate me wrongfully are multiplied. They also that render evil for good are mine adversaries, because I follow the thing that good is. Forsake me not, O Lord, O my God, be not far from me. Make haste to help me, O Lord, my salvation. Right, so that was a lot. Psalms really get right to it, don't they? Okay, so Lord, rebuke me not in thy wrath. Okay, the wrath of the Lord is not from the Lord. Remember, who is the Lord? The Lord is the source. The Lord is the law. So the Lord is two things in one, well, three things in one, if you think of it as a Trinity, Father, Mother, and Child. But as far as it's, the Lord is both a principal and a loving personal parent. So neither one of those things is going to rebuke you in its wrath. It will, however, seem as though the law has wrath on you and is rebuking you if you misuse your faculties of creation. Neither chasten me in thy hot displeasure. Okay, God is not displeased with you. God is greatly pleased with you. God has already declared that you are good and very good. Okay, so the hot displeasure that you experience, that you project onto God, is simply something coming from within your own mind. For thine arrows stick fast to me, and thy hand presseth me sore. But remember, that's not God. That is karma. That is karma coming around. And our goal in these Psalms is to create a new cause so that we get a new effect. The cause of these Purification Psalms is called grace. And so we basically are asking God to lift us up into his, her, their, its world, and so that we can see our problems from a new perspective. And that is called grace, because that is where forgiveness comes. So when we forgive ourselves and we forgive one another, then these thought forms are dissolved, and we have a new thought form in its place called grace. And it appears as though the consequence of all of our mistakes are dissolved and disappear. And it seems as though it's a miracle, and it's simply just a scientific principle in action. There is no soundness in my flesh because of thine anger, neither is there any rest in my bones because of my sin. Okay, so at least here the psalmist is finally coming to the realization that it's because of his sin, not because of God's anger. Okay, he's still projecting all of this onto God, but he's finally coming to the realization that it's because of his sin. And what is sin? It means error. It means an error. It means a misuse of your faculties. So if you misuse anything, you will get a bad response. Anyway, All right, so there's no soundness in my flesh because of thine anger, neither is there any rest in my bones because of my sin. For mine iniquities are gone over my head as an heavy burden. They are too heavy for me. Okay, now he's getting to the point where he's getting it. It's because of me that I'm experiencing all this stuff. And what I've thought, what I've done, all of the things, horrible things that I've thought, all of whatever it is that's causing all of this stuff, I'm taking responsibility for it. But I have to go to God because it's too heavy for me and I don't know how to get out. My wounds stink and are corrupt because of my foolishness, right? And your wounds, they can, the wounds represent any problems in your body and in your physical world, as well as in your emotional body, right? Any pain. And they stink, meaning that everybody knows it. Everybody can pick it up. I am troubled. I am bowed down greatly. I go mourning all the day long. Okay, so being sorry is not good enough. That all that does, being sorry for feeling like a miserable sinner, all it does is make you, it just protracts the whole thing. It just brings it into longer days. For my loins are filled with the loathsome disease, and there is no soundness in my flesh. Okay, when your loins are filled with the loathsome disease, that means your ability to create is bad, because everything that comes out of you is then diseased. So your creative thought, your creative powers are compromised greatly because of the attitude that you're carrying around, because you feel so guilty. This is all what happens with guilt when we carry guilt around. Now remember, he came from a point of, I don't know why this is happening, God must be mad at me, to finally realizing, oh, this is all in me. But then that's not enough to think, oh, I'm horrible. You don't want to think I'm horrible and then just stop with that. I am feeble and sore broken. I have roared by reason of the disquietness of my heart. All right. This is all basically saying the same thing. He's going through a great lament here. Lord, all my desire is before me, and my groaning is not hid from thee. Okay, so he's coming to God. He's making it very clear that he's putting it all on the line, and there's nothing that he's hiding from him. Mostly his displeasure is what he's not hiding. But he's not hiding anything. He's confessing his sin. And confessing means just being honest with the fact that your problems don't just happen out of the blue. There's something, you had your hand in it. My heart panteth, my strength faileth me. As for the light of mine eyes, it is also gone from me. He's weakening. He's feeling like it's killing him. He's feeling like he's dying. My lovers and my friends stand aloof from my sore, and my kinsmen stand far off. Okay, now this can manifest itself in people just not wanting to be around you because you're such a downer. But it can also, these lovers and friends are parts of you inside your mind, the creative parts of you that are capable of making so many lovely things in life are standing far off from you, because nothing can work for you because you are filled with this perfume of guilt. It's a stench. It's disgusting. They also that seek after my life lay snares for me, and they that seek my hurt speak mischievous things, and imagine deceits all the day long. Okay. Now, remember, your ego mind delighteth in your displeasure. Your ego mind loves your guilt, because then it gives it even more ammunition to say horrible things about you and horrible things about other people and about the world and how everything is awful, because you're going to agree with it. And so your ego mind is going to give you more and more and more reasons to feel like you're separate from your good, separate from God, and it's going to point to your circumstances and to your problems and say, see, there's no way out. And it's going to seek after your life by laying snares for you and speaking mischievous, hurtful things, imagining deceits all day long. So it can be paranoia. Your outlook on life is treacherous, and your ego mind is thrilled because it gets to just use this as another way to destroy you. But I, as a deaf man, heard not, and I was as a dumb man that opened not his mouth. All right, so he's teaching us here that the first thing that we got to do when we're on our way out of this is not to listen to the noise inside our heads, and not to engage with the demon, not to make a conversation within ourselves about all of these lies and deceits that are being told to us. We have to close our ears off and close our mouth off, and we go to the source instead. Thus I was a man that heareth not, and in whose mouth are no reproofs. For in thee, O Lord, do I hope. Thou wilt hear, O Lord my God. So it's giving us the secret there that we turn away from the problem, we turn away from the noise of the mind, we turn away from the appearances of evil, we turn away from the stench of our diseased thinking, and go back to the source. For I said, hear me, lest otherwise they should rejoice over me. When my foot slippeth, they magnify themselves against me. So any mistakes that you make, your ego mind will keep track of it and will constantly use it as a proof why you're not worthy, why you deserve to die, basically. And you're not listening. Instead, you're hearing God, and you're speaking to God. You're speaking to the source. For I am ready to halt, and my sorrow is continually before me. I'm ready to stop, and I'm going to recognize that my sorrow is continually before me. So I will declare mine iniquity, and I will be sorry for my sin. Okay, that's coming to terms with the fact that I had some behaviors that created this, or at least helped create this, and I had some attitudes that helped to create this, and I had some thinking that helped to create this. My hands are not clean in this, so I'm going to be sorry for my sin. To be sorry for your sin doesn't mean I'm sorry, God. It means truly sorry that you wasted all of your resources and all of this time to create this mess for yourself, right? But mine enemies are lively, and they are strong, and they that hate me wrongfully are multiplied. And that's how thoughts work. Thoughts multiply. The mind is expansive. Thought is creative. They also render evil for good. They also that render evil for good are mine adversaries, because I follow the thing that good is. Okay? So the ego mind does not like you talking to God. Does not like thinking the truth about yourself, because it knows then darkness does not have any chance, because all you're doing is turning the light on. Forsake me not, O Lord, O my God, be not far from me. Well, you know that God never forsakes you, and God's never far from you, because closer is he than hands and feet, nearer is he than breathing. All right, so remember these things. Make haste to help me, O Lord, my salvation. Then you're just coming back to the realization that you have one salvation, and that is the source of all life. The life principle, so life, truth, and love are a nice holy trinity for you to think about. And so divine love is what God is. And divine love casteth out all fear, and it also casteth out all guilt. It casteth out all darkness. Divine light casteth out all darkness. So make haste to help me, O Lord, my salvation. Of course, when you turn to God, the light rushes in, and it's really that fast. It's really that fast to turn on the light, and the darkness is gone. None of these thoughts within you have any power over you, except for when you listen to them and engage with them. Instead, you turn to God. You turn to the light. You turn to the source. Now let's think about the source real quickly. Just give yourself some principles to deal with. God is mother and father. Okay, and it's appropriate for you to address God how you will, how you can understand God the best. So if to you God is the mother goddess, then that is the way you approach God, right? So, and that's one aspect of the Trinity. That is the Holy Spirit. But you can call it Diana, you can call it Gaia, you can call it whatever works for you. You can call it Great Spirit, you can call it God the Father, whatever you want to call it. But God is pure love, divine love. Divine is life, the principle of life itself. The thing that makes everything alive. Life itself, the principle of life itself. Truth, meaning 1 and 1 equals 2, And just because somebody puts on the blackboard that 1 and 1 equals 9 doesn't make it so. God is unfailing truth. It's always true. God is infinite intelligence, meaning that there are scientific breakthroughs will happen through infinity because the intelligence of God is infinite. Okay, and so science reveals the truth about God, and that's why any religion that doesn't support science doesn't understand what we're talking about. So God is intelligence. God is substance, meaning that everything you need is there in potential waiting for you. And that's why when you do an operation, a magical operation, whether you call it prayer, whether you call it a spell, you have at your disposal all substance. And it can be it's just as easy for God to manifest as money in your wallet as it is for him to manifest as a leaf on the ground, right? So substance can appear as whatever it needs to appear in order for God's will to be done. So God is all power. In fact, there's only one power. God is all presence. That means there is no spot where God is not. So that means within your problem itself, you can focus on the presence of God, and that is a tool that you can use to actually see the problem transform before your eyes. That's why we say judge not by appearances, right? So think on, and then come up with your own ideas of what God is. Infinite what? Divine what? Divine beauty. I mean, there's indescribable beauty. So think about qualities of God and notice how when you ponder the qualities of what God is, that it starts to take the charge off of your problem. And if you can focus all your mind on what those qualities of God are rather than on your problem, you'll notice that your problem starts to just sort of take care of itself. And you if you claim divine guidance, which I recommend that you do, and you do what is in front of you to do, that your problems get solved in miraculous ways. Just keep asking, what is my highest action in this moment? What is right action? What is divine action in this moment? And then when something is presented to you in the moment, you respond to it in the moment. You don't think about the enormity of your problem. You don't think about, oh my God, what's going to happen in January? What's going to happen tomorrow? You think about what's in front of you, right? And you call on divine action. You call upon the qualities of God, and you demand that your problem be solved, because this is what's worthy of a child of a royal family. I mean, that's what you are. You are royalty. You are absolute royalty, and you have rights, you have privileges, and you have access to unlimited prosperity. And that prosperity can manifest as health of body. It can manifest as high quality relationships. It can manifest as a lover. It can manifest as money, as business, as a car, as a home, as whatever you need. And God wants you to have all those things, because God wants you to be happy. There's a difference between greed and having your needs met in an abundant, wealthy, prosperous, and opulent manner, right? All right, I love you very much. This was kind of a disjointed day, but I think we got the work done. I will talk to you very soon. Love you, love you, love you.